Will be called to order at 6:33. Bonnie, would you be able to take minutes?
I can.
Excellent. Okay. So first item of business that we have up is taking a look at the minutes from the last meeting. Bring those up here. I believe that was all the way back on August 24th. Yes. So those have been out. I'll bring them up on the screen here. Does anybody have any questions regarding the minutes? Otherwise, I will look for a motion to approve. Oh, no,
So move.
Second.
All right. Motion from Bonnie, second from Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Eric, that's the date. The date says August 24th of last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's the one you want?
That's the last
2021.
Sadly.
Oh, wow.
No, that is correct.
Okay.
We haven't gotten to August of this year yet, so.
Well, I just figured that there had been a committee meeting in there in between.
No, it's been a bit. You know, we've done a lot of work as a committee between meetings. I think it's probably what's playing with your memory there.
Yes, that is exactly it.
Been a lot of work group kind of activities. So, okay, so that is approved, and then that is going to take us to our item of business here, which is digging into. Let's see. Yeah, no, lost my.
All right, while you're looking for that, a quick question. Should I record present both Anna and Jillian? I see Jillian in the background. But I'm not sure if
Both.
both. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I wasn't sure if it was just geospatial coincidence.
Oh, Jill was also on the tech visits.
Perfect.
Eric, it's called V2 now. So if you're looking for a specific link.
Yep. I had it open and then it wasn't open. So then I went and found the link. It's loading.
I can share if you want.
That would be fine. Oh, it can't be reached. Why can't it be reached? Come on, Chrome. Will that work better? Okay, here we go. Okay. So our exciting list of things, it looks like we've got 40 items that were listed here. Okay, we've got the vendors and partners that are listed, potential improvements, and the attribute detail. Okay. Matt, it looks like you went in and organized this nice.
Yeah, well, and Bonnie did as well. So kudos.
Excellent.
Thank you everyone for the contributions here. Now, what I struggled with, excuse me, just to preface this is, you know, not having been on, obviously we shared the canvases, you know, is really what takeaways other individuals had during the course of the canvas that they felt, you know, were really impactful or excited to bring back to the library. And so I was hoping tonight we could have a discourse around just kind of going through these and surfacing up among the group of us what we feel are the, the top 5, 10, whatever it may be. I think the overlay we need to have is whether it's economically or physically feasible for the library. And I'll leave it at that. Thoughts or feedback?
That makes sense to me. Katie, Anna, Jillian, Laurence, what do you think?
Yeah, sounds good.
So,
Sounds good.
clarify which tab are we looking at? Are we looking at the new tab or the old tab or what?
We are looking at Library Canvas Rubric version 2. So it's probably morphed a little bit since you last looked at it and put information. We're on the attribute detail tab.
I should clarify. I can see which tab we're looking at. Which one are we discussing first?
Attribute detail was mine. Yeah.
Okay. Shall we
Yeah, that's better. Sorry.
start it? So our first item up on the attribute tab here is dedicated study rooms. I think you've accurately summed up the cost and the space requirement for that. Certainly, I think we see dedicated study rooms. I certainly saw those at every library is that. Those are pretty common. I would rate the impact as high. There's a lot of demand for the small study space right now.
I'll get a lot of feedback, Eric, on my end.
Okay,
and whatnot. Yeah.
Eric, the mic is going out, I think. We lost your audio at the end there.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay, good.
is it
I was
actually
wondering if it was
working?
just me.
I can hear you now, but the end of it went staticky and then your mouth was moving, there was no sound. So I think it's
While Eric's looking at his audio, maybe someone who went to Wakanda can describe the entry here, dedicated study rooms. I think many of the libraries the team visited, including myself and the team I worked with, saw dedicated study rooms. Is there something in particular about these ones in Wakanda?
Yeah, this was one of my, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump over, please.
I just, I've been on many library visits, so the Wakanda ones weren't particularly notable. They were a fairly standard dedicated study room that we saw at other libraries as well. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add, and again, this is just from my perspective, so that may be commonplace, or we okay, Eric? Oh, that wasn't all right. It was unique that they had like specific high school and middle school areas, and in particular, they commented that the high school area was very popular. They only allocate these areas during non-school hours, so patrons are not impacted by it during the school day, but post-school and on the weekends, the high schoolers and middle schoolers have a place like that to congregate and work together, socialize, what have you. I thought that element of it was unique, and in an attempt to pull more of our local students in, that might, should we have space or ability to do that, that might be a consideration. That's why I included it.
Yeah, I thank you. That color, if you will, is helpful, because I don't think Deerfield or Northbrook, two of the places that myself and I think Laurence and others visited, I don't think they had them dedicated to high school or middle school. I think it was open to any card holder to walk in if it was available or book it online.
I think there may also be, we want to clarify the terminology, because when I hear study room, I'm thinking of a small dedicated space for one, maybe 2 or 3 people to work and study, which a lot of the libraries had. In addition, a lot of the libraries also had these dedicated spaces for middle schoolers, high schoolers, whatever. There was a much larger communal space. Some of them had like a dedicated space that was like its own permanent room, large size room. Others, it was an area that was like, okay, after 4:30, the high schoolers are going to be invading the area kind of thing. But I think we'll want to clarify whether we mean study rooms, like kind of individual or small group private study rooms, or if we're talking about a larger activity or meeting space for these groups of students or what have you.
Yeah,
On,
that's. I'm
the
sorry.
last tab, on the last tab too, we kind of made that sort of differentiation of a teen space, and then I think study rooms were in there too, weren't there?
If they're not in there, it's only because we all already know we want them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just say it's a must.
Here are my thoughts, and please interject. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Katie, and that's a good delineation. These are more like communal spaces, maybe to accommodate 10 to 15 people as opposed to like a couple few. However, you know, I'm thinking that the elementary and the middle school here are, you know, a relatively small, few hundred students, right? And maybe, and potentially, and we really, I don't expect would be drawing much from the high school because they probably just go down like Forest Library is closer. But that it may be applicable for elementary or middle school, and therefore, because those schools are smaller, we could potentially get away with a smaller space. What I had, like in thinking about the footprint of the library, that area on the second floor by the elevators, I don't know if that's something that can, you know, that would be an option to repurpose, or if there are alternatives.
The mezzanine area, the one that looks out kind of onto the foyer, or are you talking
Yeah.
about, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
I don't know.
I never see that used, and maybe that's just when I'm there, but
It does get used occasionally for people
Actually,
who are,
quite a bit.
does it? Okay.
yeah, it,
Chairs in
what-
today, so it's been used.
that's also our only thoroughfare for our shelvers to bring carts of books upstairs. So they need that space to be clear so that they can get materials to and from.
I feel like that's probably got some ADA situations,
Yeah.
being the thoroughfare between multiple spaces and the elevator.
Oh yeah, and then there's a bathroom up there and
Bathroom, yeah.
shared space with the museum.
We have to, everything that goes in that space, both parties typically have to agree to. So, yeah, and I do know one of the other libraries we visited mentioned that their teen space they used to have was kind of in the middle of the main floor, and yet there were still a lot of problems with inappropriate conduct happening when they thought people couldn't see them. So putting it in a space where we literally don't have eyes on it would not be my preference.
Well, in Prospect Heights, they made a comment about that too in their teen space and not having a door on it, essentially for
Yeah.
the same reason.
Yeah.
Deerfield also mentioned that between certain hours, I think it was 2 p.m. to 9 p.m., someone from the library staff circulates routinely to ensure that the rooms are being treated properly. They aren't overcrowded. They're not, you know, getting dirty with, I don't know, snacks or whatever that might be going on there, as well as on the whiteboards to ensure that there was no offensive language.
Yeah,
A teen space obviously comes with a lot of challenges, both in terms of the actual physical space of our library, but also all of these things that we've brought up. So it has existed for a long time on our wish list, but how?
I do think we could make improvements to the current study space by the teen area. Currently, the only outlets, so we've got 3 tables over there, but the only electricity is next to the giant window, which is also where the people who come to sit in armchairs and read the newspapers want to be. So they are constantly fighting for like exactly 1 table out of 3. If we could find a way to add electricity to the other tables, I think that would be very beneficial. To start.
More than just the teens, that would be beneficial across all age groups at our library. That's a really good point,
Yes,
though.
and Anna could stop moving furniture every other day because the patrons keep moving it for what they want.
We'll do that anyway. No promises on that one.
We'll be optimistic.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good. My computer stopped recognizing that microphones existed, which was interesting. And at least it's being creative with the problems it's throwing at me. Okay, so were we still talking about the study rooms?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think the takeaway, or at least where we're at right now, Eric, is the space that's used for the teens right now, can we enhance that by, adding electrical outlets, maybe USBs or something like that, so that it's less of a, a struggle between folks who are reading in the armchairs and people who are using the tables.
USB-Cs are starting to go out of date though, just a comment.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
well, yes and no.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't hurt to also look at maybe getting some new furniture that would be a little more inviting in a teen space.
well, I think the big challenge that we have up there is that it's not really a dedicated teen space.
Accurate.
That it's, a space with a teen adjacent collection, and that at certain times of the day is dominated by teens. But we're definitely a far cry from, what you'd see as a dedicated teen space at one of the other libraries in the area. All of which, challenges. Because I think you're right. I think that it's advantageous to decorate towards that usage. If we can, I'm just not sure we can. Hope everything is okay out there. Annie and Jillian just made a run for it. Okay.
Oh.
Anyway, I'm going to put the potential impact down as a high impact. We do get, not necessarily for study rooms, but small group meeting rooms that could be used for studying as well as other things. We do get a lot of requests for those.
Yeah, at the Prospect Heights one, they had a variety of different rooms, and some of the rooms for the larger study groups had monitors in them so that people could work on projects together as a group, and they varied in size. Can't remember the exact number, but there were probably about 4 or 5 scattered around.
Can I request that we change this first one to a teen space, since we have dedicated study rooms as item 14, so that we have the kind of differentiation between the two conversations there?
We can do that.
It's also listed at number 9 as well. So I think it might have just been listing where it was listed at the different libraries. So.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I did was I went back and read through everyone's notes and just tried to pull out, what their observations were, and then just the typing, whether they're hardware buildings, self-explanatory, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there will be duplicative or multiple entries of the same topic here, but I thought that might help us with emphasis. Hey, we're seeing this at every library we looked at.
Yeah.
It might be good to, in the library reference, just add multiple libraries and only have one line, so we can kind of narrow it down a bit.
Okay.
Or have the library reference specific, all of the specific libraries that we saw it at. Which is what I think we did in potential improvements.
Okay.
Okay. It looks like there's probably going to be a lot of overlap between some of the tabs here. So what do we want to say is our impact for teen space?
Hi.
Sounds like it's high, but
Very high. I've had this conversation a lot with Melissa. This is really what the community is asking for, is having a dedicated teen space. So I just want to make sure that it gets up there.
I think another thing that, Matt, you mentioned during our last board meeting was using some of the findings from these tech visits to populate questions in our community survey over the summer. So I think it might be helpful either at this tech meeting or one that happens soon after to say, indicate which items we want to pull through in the community survey.
Okay, that's a great idea.
Jillian?
Yes.
Is it possible to still go in and edit the questions?
Oh, for the survey?
Survey.
Yeah.
Oh, the questions in the survey. Got
um,
it. I think Martha said yes in that email.
It is possible to make changes. I don't feel super comfortable making those changes without, Martha has some very worked on logic behind how the survey happens. So I know she worked really hard to cut down the length of the survey. So I just want to be careful about how much we are adding to the survey. And some of this is already in there.
Yeah, I know that she had, if I remember right, she had sent it out to everybody. I think a month or two ago. So we should have those questions somewhere. Why don't we take a look at the questions after we go through this, and then if there's something that we feel strongly about making a change to the survey on, we can take a look. I think it's the right idea to try and work in the angle with the tech questions here, but at the same time, I know that Martha's goal and intent was to leave that survey ready to run automatically when she went on leave. So probably don't want to dig into that too deep, but we'll take a look and see what we can do.
Eric, why don't we suggest this? Why don't, to Bonnie's recommendation, if we think this is a survey candidate, we'll just note it now, and then in the interest of time, we can go back and review the survey after this meeting and see if it's there. If it is, great. If not, we can cross that bridge in terms of modifying or not at a later point.
Shall we make a new column?
Yeah, I just had a survey candidate.
Oh, okay. Got it.
The next two are mine. There's the Wakanda had a luxury of almost too much space, if that's possible. Wakanda and Aspen. So they had rooms that were like just almost empty, or not even being used at all, which is incredulous. But their employee lounge, I thought, was really remarkable. I mean, they had a lot of dedicated employee desk space as well as shared spaces. They had a lounge with a table by the windows for staff to have lunch, basic kitchenette type stuff, a water machine. So I've never been in our employee lounge, if there is.
There's an employee lunchroom.
Okay.
Down on the lower level. Yeah.
It's mostly a storage room and a refrigerator and a sink.
I think that might be one you just need to be in it to experience, to truly capture.
To
How
believe
much
it.
do you like cinder block walls?
Yeah.
It's crowded
Well,
with two
that's-
people
I mean,
in it.
That's the building, though.
Right.
Where are you gonna put a lunchroom in this building that doesn't have cinder block walls?
That said, I do think if our long-term plan is to continue expanding, it would be worth looking at whether we can find the storage area elsewhere to remove the non-lunchroom related storage from that space and expand some of the seating and countertop area, because right now only 2 people can be eating in there at a time and you have to switch chairs to use the microwave.
Accurate.
So even just having like a bar top where the microwave itself could be instead of on the table would be really nice.
We don't really have a lounge. We don't have a room where we can, as staff, talk about, talk together, be together, networking.
So
No, it really has to just be making use of one of the meeting rooms. That's what it comes down to.
Or the office.
Yeah. Matt.
I was just going to say, is there merit too, like in the halcyon days, if we get if that PNC building, something happens there, is there merit in noting some of these things for future planning, or do we want to stick within the constraints of our existing physical plan?
It's a challenge. We do need to create more employee space. The long-term goal with the bump out to the west is to create an enlarged employee workspace.
Okay.
There is a plan included for that.
So my thought is, if we get to that point a year, 2, 3 years down the road, rather than have to kind of recircle the wagons in terms of what were some of our priorities last time, would it be helpful to kind of surface those considerations here, or is that too ambitious?
It's already included in our building plans for the what we're looking at. So I don't think we're breaking any molds by marking it in here. So Katie, Anna, Jillian, say as far as potential impact and priority, just very, very low, you think?
I mean, I think are we talking
infinitesimally small?
In terms of the likelihood of it happening, yeah, that's very, very low. Would it have a high impact on staff? Yeah, I think it could. But I know better than to think that that's anything that will be happening anytime soon.
We'll go with that. And I think we just did employee lounge at the same time as well. Is the desk space. Desk is the lounge more maybe middle of the road as far as impact? I think the desk space would probably be the biggest one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Wakanda's in the middle of like the park district and the school district buildings, whereas we have luxury walking out the front door and picking from at least a few different restaurants or places to socialize.
So I see that the AV studio has been pre-rated.
Yeah. And I think based on the last non-quorum meeting we had, Anna, I think someone had already jumped on this, right? Best Buy?
The AV studio was not on my or Jill's list. Eric, was that on yours?
I don't
think so. Let's define AV studio here, because we have like the VCR to digital converter that's on the potential improvements list. Is that what you are referring to as the AV studio? No. What were you?
This was like excuse me, I have hiccups. This was like a full recording studio with mixing capabilities, editing capabilities. Aspen even had a sound room, like an anechoic, if I'm saying that correctly, chamber. So you could really make high quality recordings. But what jumped out at me was it was Wakanda and one other. They had financed both these rooms, and the other wasn't an AV room, it was something else, but they had financed them with grants from local companies. And that grabbed my attention. And I thought someone had said last meeting that they had already started to look at that as to whether, and maybe we already have, I just wasn't aware of it, but I thought, gosh, I mean, if there's money available, we should be raising our hand.
I don't think we've investigated the Best Buy, most likely because we don't have space for the AV studio. I don't think, personally, I would not list that as a high impact for our library, just based on knowing our patrons. I don't think we would get a huge amount of engagement. especially for, like, if we had the space for an AV studio, we
Freeze.
Yeah.
Moving on to hotspots and Wi-Fi.
I think another thing to point out about some of these, I'll call them attributes, for lack of a better word. You know, when I read back through my notes, a lot of libraries allow non-residents to use the makerspace or audio-visual equipment or whatever. So I think I don't know what happens today if somebody calls up or goes to the desk at the Lake Bluff Public Library and says, hey, where can I find an AV studio?
Well, the answer is North Chicago Public Library has one, and they actually haven't seen high usage of their AV studio.
Well, they also, I believe, still charge people to use it.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Good note.
Yeah, some of the places we visited said they charge for like materials or
right. Yeah,
you know, not that they charged for an hour of use in a AV studio, but maybe for some of the materials or whatever.
Right.
So I think one of the takeaways from this is ensuring that our patrons and our staff, you know, you guys know it's, you know, you're coming up with the answers now. And maybe it's just making sure our patrons know, hey, do you know that, you know, these neighboring libraries have equipment that is available to you? You know, call up the Lake Bluff Library, will point you in the right direction. You know, that can also be a solve. We don't have to, we don't have to have everything in-house. You know, there's a lot of great sharing that happens.
Yeah.
To build on that, Bonnie, I think what we need to kind of do here is differentiate the things that are going to require a high amount of space, because that's what we don't have. We don't have a high amount of space. So the things that are a higher amount of space, we need to be extremely selective about what we pursue and how we pursue it. And I think there's plenty of things that we have thought of ways that we can do a smaller space version of that might suit our library a little bit better.
And I think we'll also want to be looking at some of this stuff in terms of how much staff time would be used to show patrons how to use it or to monitor use of the space or something like that, because that's also that is a resource that we are often low on. So something like an AV studio would, I mean, that would probably require to some extent a dedicated staff person to assist with that. Same with jumping down a little bit, but with these larger maker spaces, like one of the things in common is that they have a dedicated person to do programs or to do some kind of educational tutorial. So that's something else we'll need to be very mindful, or that we'll need to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Katie. To expand on that, I know on my visits, Aspen and Wakanda, they have, you know, these folks, they have bigger staff. Aspen even has like 3 people who are expressly, and they're part-time or volunteers who are expressly there just to help people with the makerspace and some of the technology. And you can, you know, schedule time with them if need be. You know, that's not obviously something that we can contemplate right now, but I wanted to include it just for awareness.
Mm-hmm.
What got me about the AV studio wasn't so much, you know, I'm not boots on the ground, so I don't know what the staff is hearing day to day, but in terms of, I like free money. And, you know, I would definitely advocate and participate in any effort to, like, you know, the 3 that I highlighted in green, somewhat apropos color, were all grants. So the drive up locker down below, you know, that Northbrook got, ARPA funded. The hotspots that Northbrook got, they got a grant from T-Mobile. AV Studio, they got $5 grand from Best Buy and spent it on Best Buy stuff. So maybe that's one takeaway of you know, acknowledging the AV studio might not be practical for a variety of considerations, but you know, do we make a, you know, the Tribune comes out every weekend, I think, with the top, you know, the stock performance, the top 100 companies in Chicago. You know, is it worth you know, divvying them up and seeing if they have grants or funds available that might be relevant to us? Food for thought.
Definitely. We should probably keep ourselves rolling here, since we got quite a list to go through. But
do you want me to go through mine? Because most of these at the top here, Wakanda, Aspen, are mine, so I can rifle through the rest of those quickly if you'd like.
Sure.
All right, I say mine, the ones I went on. Children's interactive elements. This was really cool. They said the kids loved them, and they were basically like mats with like my chair mat underneath my my desk chair here. But they had a membrane inside, and they just put these like kind of viscous liquids in there, and the kids, you know, could step on them or press on them, and you know, they were easy. They could pick them up off the floor if they needed the space, you know, wipe them off with some Windex. It seemed like a low cost, really cool interactive element.
They were fun. I played with everything.
Yeah, the light bright gets me. So to keep going along, the makerspace in Aspen is something to see. I mean, it's just incredible. Even the ventilation system is bi-directional, so it's not only they can like switch a vent, and it no longer becomes like the heating and air conditioning. It can be an evacuation for whatever projects they're working on, so fumes and whatever don't get into the makerspace. Obviously, very cost prohibitive and space prohibitive. Aspen had an incredible AV studio as well. I mean, even with a sound room. And then the study rooms I just added here again or teen spaces, I added here again for emphasis. So
Okay, I'll speak briefly. So the electric generator was something that Deerfield has. They use it to power the library when the electric power goes out in the community. It does run things a little dimmer in the library, so you actually know when it's on. And it's just something that the Building and Grounds Committee have been talking about. Is it possible to do this for Lake Bluff? Because our power does seem to go out whenever there's a big storm. And then, you know, people have a place where they can gather that has power up and running, Wi-Fi up and running, etc. So that was that. And then if anyone who was on the visit with me from Deerfield or Northbrook wants to jump in on that, please feel free.
do you know, did they talk about capacity or cost? I guess that would be unique to us, but
you know, it's enough capacity to run the lights a little dimmer than usual, and the HVAC and the like fridge and things like that. It's you know, it's enough to get by. It's not you know, running the whole makerspace in Deerfield or anything.
right.
So
I'm going to do a quick note about the teen space at Deerfield, because it's the one that if I could emulate one, I would emulate Deerfield's, because the space is separate from the children's department, but staff has really easy access to it. The teen space is open to a wider public space so that during the school days, general public can be using the tables in that area for whatever they want to, but then in the afternoon, it becomes a dedicated teen space. So it's kind of got that multiple access and multiple use that I think makes the most sense for our library and our community. How and where, I don't have those answers, but that's what I'd like to emulate.
At Prospect Heights, they had the ability to play video games on a television too. So if you had like programming set up in place for something like that, would be pretty cool too.
Yeah.
okay, electric generator, I'm going to throw out there, it could be a survey candidate, maybe. The next one, the recycling center in Northbrook. So This is not your typical, paper recycling or aluminum can recycling. It's for other household items like batteries, cell phones, eyeglasses, etc. It's located outside of an elevator area in the Northbrook Library, just something that I noted. And I used to bring my household batteries to work. Since
Yeah.
I've retired, I don't have a convenient place to recycle my household batteries. So anyway.
We do already have recycling for eyeglasses and cell phones.
It's by the elevator, ironically.
Yeah, there's 2 different pickup boxes. And they're picked up by,
I don't remember.
one of them is the Lions Club, and I forget who the other one is, but we periodically contact them to come get the boxes when they're full.
Got it. Is it like a tabletop box?
Yeah,
Technically,
yeah,
it's just not, it's on the bottom shelf.
well, yes, it's
Yes.
on a shelf. But Bonnie, I do think that's something to pursue. We had discussed recently whether a shred event at the library might have interest. And I know some libraries have done electronics recycling in conjunction with the shred event. So it's certainly as an event, something that we could do with our limited space if we could get someone to come to collect the items. Like bring a big box and, from 10 to noon, you can drop stuff off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. That's Deerfield and Northbrook, some things that I dropped onto this list earlier today. Now we're on to Prospect Heights.
Yeah, I think the few things there, some of the stuff we've talked a little bit about, but the checkout system was pretty good with a software program with an iPad called MeScan, and it was in 3 different languages that people could do checkout, and it generated a receipt then as well. They seemed pretty easy to set up. I think they had 2 of them there that people could use. The makerspace was also pretty elaborate. They had 2 3D printers there that you had to pay to use it. It was like $1 a gram to use to use it. You would send your file over to someone, and then they would then generate whatever object you wanted printed, and then you would collect it at that point. And then they had various other things that you could do engraving on. They had a digital sewing machine that you could send stuff to. You could engrave on glass, on wood. It had laminators there, but also had at least 2 people there that were dedicated to helping people when they came in to do their projects. But that space was pretty impressive. And the other thing that Prospect Heights had that was sort of unique was a library of things. I noticed on some of the things we talk about, Roku hotspots, they had those, and they had things like telescopes or a toolkit that people could rent out for the weekend or use and then bring back. And that was sort of a kind of an area. It was all in shelves that didn't take up that much space. They had a therapy doll there, if I remember, but not a huge variety of things, but just things that patrons can borrow and then bring back. And then bike locks for kids if they'd forgotten to lock, so they come in to get those umbrellas. Just think little subtle things like that. I can't think of anything else that's not on the list here that we haven't talked about. Yeah, like I said, their study rooms were nice. They had various sizes with monitors in there if you had group projects. Very open, so you could see exactly what was going on.
So
Jillian, Katie, can you think of anything else that was?
yeah, it's just further down on this list is the heated pathways. So there's
Yes.
more.
Oh,
further
yeah.
down.
Yes, that was
the ice
That's right.
melt or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I was like, oh, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Luxury.
And
Yeah.
Bill, were the study rooms at Prospect Heights? You said they were more like teen spaces?
Yeah, well, they had their teen spaces in there, but they had I think 2 areas where they had 3 rooms and another area where they had 2 rooms in. I don't think they were in the teen space area. They were sort of in well, actually probably were, but very open. You could see everything that was going on. And then another 3 more in the adult side of things, but a big sort of a larger one with larger 2 with monitors on there that you could actually then you know, hook up a computer and work on stuff. You can kind of see what's going on. Maybe it'd hold maybe 4 people in there. Other ones then that might have 2. There wasn't when we were there. Maybe there was one was being used. I don't think there was dedicated times for anything as far as to, you know, anyone could use them if you signed up for it.
Got it.
Okay.
All right, a quick row number 14 is just a comment. I think, Matt, you pulled out of the notes that I had put together from the Northbrook visit. I don't really think it's worth additional discussion unless people feel that there's any remaining uncertainty over the increased demand for e-books and e-assets.
Yeah, I just put it in here just for benchmarking because you noted that they had quadrupled their digital collection during COVID. So if we just wanted to look at how other libraries had grown, that at least gave us one other point of reference. Just as an aside here too, as we're talking, well, if there's duplicative elements, I'm just consolidating them and adding additional libraries in column F. So like the teen space, we'll just consolidate them all into one line.
Prospect Heights also had those like kits. Don't you remember, Bill? Like the like a movie night kit that you could
Yes,
check
that's
out.
right.
Their themed
Yeah.
kits. Those were pretty cute.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they were like romantic night, date night, action night. They'd handpick sort of a collection to take home. That's right.
And they had like a custom box that they made for each one, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I saw a Cook Memorial recently and told Katie about this, but they had like an entire stand just for 1040 booklets and stuff, and like a
Oh,
stand for tax records.
honestly, yeah, I was gonna say, honestly, the shock was that they were able to get so many printed copies of the tax forms from the IRS in the first place.
Okay, I think going down the list, we're back to Wakanda, discussion on Roku hotspots and tech to go.
Yeah, and so again, I just want to include these for reference points. They have 10 Rokus and 15 hotspots. Although, and I think that the staff has already kind of looked into this, but they used E-rate for their discounts and purchasing on those. They felt they got a really good deal. So if we're trying to benchmark ourselves, it just gives us another couple points of reference.
And Matt, didn't they have 2 dedicated staff to troubleshooting those devices and making sure that they were in good condition for circulation?
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah. Again, just a benchmark.
Yep.
Well, in Prospect Heights, they had tech staff specifically, and so that kind of just fell in their realm of things too.
Yeah, I think most of the libraries where they talked about that stuff had it either fell under the purview of the tech staff, or there was like 1 or 2 people in circulation or something, but it was one of their primary responsibilities was making sure that the technology stayed up to date, that it was still functioning when it came back and things got recharged and batteries replaced and stuff like that. So Because it's, even though I think on the scale of, in terms of how high maintenance this stuff is, I don't know that I'm sure there's other technology that comes back that would be much more high maintenance. I was kind of surprised at how much staff time seemed to go into maintaining some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Just to continue on here, the Aspen's workshop was remarkable, and I just listed out all the different equipment they had. So if we're contemplating, I think an engraver is either in our consideration or is one, maybe, no. In any case, I just wanted to list out the different technologies where they were included in those maker spaces. So we have that again as a point of reference. You can see a lot of, you know, a lot of recurring ones, like the etcher and the 3D printers, laminators seem to be pretty common across all the libraries, not just the ones I visited. Aspen had 20 hotspots compared to the 15 at Wakanda. However, 10 of those were dedicated to laptops that they also circulated. So there were really only 10 in their general circulation. They didn't even know how many Rokus they had. They just said, we have a lot. So must be nice. That's it for mine, or the ones I visited. Winnetka.
Let's see. The Winnetka, the shelving was nice and flexible. Had a lot of their shelving was on casters, easy to move around and change the configuration. We saw a jewelry demonstration in their maker space, which was a nice big room. Used to be their genealogy room downstairs, but has since become a very impressive maker space. They had indicated that a lot of the machinery that they have down there isn't necessarily all that well used at the moment, but that the laser engraver is very popular. So that definitely seemed to be a consistent theme at a lot of libraries, is that the laser engraver gets a lot of use.
And I also will say, on the considering how much fuss has been made over 3D printers, especially, you know, like 10 years ago in the library world, I've found that a lot of libraries that either on these visits or just kind of talking to staff in general, I am so sorry, Gilbert's like right next to the laptop. A lot of people have said that the 3D printers, while they do get some use, it's not the amount of use that they anticipated, and it's not the amount of use that they would have hoped for, given how much they paid initially for them. And I know 3D printers are getting cheaper and cheaper, but some of this technology, it sounds really cool, and some of it might be big and flashy, but we'll want to make sure that we're not, you know, that this is something that will actually be used in the community, and not getting too caught up in keeping up with the rest of the libraries.
I was just thinking how moving a genealogy room into a maker space kind of speaks to the fads of the library world. But I actually wanted to hop on and say too that the etcher and the laser engraver at both Northbrook Makerspace and Deerfield, they both said that that was one of their highest use items.
Prospect Heights, it was the laser.
Okay, so moving through here, we've got a bunch of makerspace. I think we've been talking about that. Let's jump down here to
so
the drive-up locker.
Yeah, those are being installed in Northbrook when we visited, and they are something that you can access 24/7, these drive-up lockers. So I've never used an Amazon locker myself, but I imagine it's similar. What happens is you get a code on your cell phone, so you can open the locker. It's a one-time use. And then if you're only able to get to the library to pick up items when the library is closed, or you don't want to go into the library at all because you might have a sleeping toddler in the car, again, you're 5 to 10 steps, park your car 5 to 10 steps, open the locker, get what you need done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was an ARPA fund grant at Northbrook. We talked a lot about hotspots already, so I don't have anything special to add there.
So when you say drive up locker, is it you drive up to it and you don't have to get out of the car, or is it you
No,
get
you
out
do
and
still
walk
have
up
to
to
get
it?
out of the car.
Okay.
You kind of parked this way and the lockers were here, so you could hop out and you could still have eyes on the car.
Yeah.
Hop out, enter your code, hop right back in. Like literally, it was right against the curb where the sidewalk is. If you're familiar with the Northbrook Library, it was kind of around the back.
So would patrons have to indicate ahead of time that that's how they wanted to pick up their hold? Because I'm trying to imagine how that would be, what that's like on the staff end, like, you know,
Good
if you haven't
question,
both.
Katie. I can only assume so. I don't know if any of the staff remember any more details.
We
No, I
didn't get into the workflow of it, but
Yeah.
yes, it would have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, the Prospect Heights and Cook Memorial, they both have drive up windows. So I mean, those are also indicated spaces. I think what would be kind of confusing is that Prospect Heights had to indicate a different district library to be able to do that, which is pretty bizarre.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about, like, if you have a physical hold shelf inside the library where most people come to pick the stuff up, and if the holds just automatically go there, you know, at what point, you know, are you able to indicate, no, I want to pick it up at the locker rather than coming inside?
Well,
So
Katie,
if it's
there must be a way to indicate, because I also had an internal self-serve hold pickup in a room,
okay.
in like a very large room that had air walls and everything in Northbrook. Sorry, Eric, you were also adding.
No, just saying that if it were something that we pursued, there's definitely enough libraries in the area doing it that we could, you know, learn a few things about the workflows and what made it work or not.
Bonnie, how many lockers were they that you could access to? Is it something that was like 12 or that was separate?
I would say it was about 12. They were on their back being drilled together by the installation crew while we were there. I know some were bigger than others. We talked a little bit about how did you decide the sizes, and I think they asked other users, other library users, you know, about the different sizes.
Yeah.
So my recollection would be about 12, and they were just 2 sizes in play. Anyone else who was on the visit with me maybe remember more detail?
I know, talking to the director's listserv, that the drive-up windows as well as the pickup boxes were generally considered to be some of the big advantages for libraries that had them during the pandemic. So I would definitely expect to see more of those going in as a result. So now Newport has those and has had those for quite a bit, and I've noticed a lot of libraries putting in the walk-up boxes. So Prospect Heights is Polaris, which is similar to Sierra, what we have. It's under the same corporate umbrella now. So I would expect that there's workflows that are available there.
Okay, then we're back to Prospect Heights and Aspen after that.
Yeah, those look like more of the maker
maker
and
square.
labs.
Yeah.
The kits to go.
Gets to go. I put that in because I thought that was unique, and then I realized the other day that we have those, almost identical to what Wakanda has. So I'll sunset that one. Story time to go.
Story time to go was such a great idea that we already copied it.
Okay. Yay.
All right, Tech Tuesday. It's a 2-hour block on a Tuesday afternoon where anyone from Northbrook with any questions about how do I text a photo off my iPhone, or how do I post something on Instagram, or how do I do something on LinkedIn, or how do I make my laptop talk to my smart TV kind of thing. It was like a university professor who has office hours, if you will, and anyone can walk in at any time. It was just a simple little desk with a simple little sign in Northbrook that said, I have any questions about technology? Ask me.
I'm gonna suggest 2 potential solutions to how we might do something similar with our resources. If we wanted to offer that kind of broad tech help, we would need to hire someone outside to come in for 2 hours, say once a month. And it would need to be an expert, because we get enough of those questions as it is that we have no idea how to help people with some of this stuff, just because it's so dependent on the actual device and what the problem is. So if we wanted that broad kind of help, I'd say we would want to look at paying an expert to come in for a couple hours. I think we could manage that maybe on a monthly or quarterly basis. I don't think we'd need it more frequently than that. However, we do also try to encourage patrons for ebook help or for help with other digital resources we provide to come to us. And I think it would be worth perhaps looking at the web page on our site where we mention that and seeing if we can expand a little bit on the best way for them to get in touch with us, because often it's a phone call of, hi, I'm trying to get books from Libby to my Kindle. Can you help me? And I'm like, well, yes, but if you need me to do it with you over the phone, there's a very good chance it's not going to end well, because I can't see what you're doing, you know, and then they try for half an hour on the phone, can't do it, come in, and then we walk through it together. So I think we could do a scaled back version maybe of the Tech Tuesday. I like the idea, though. I think it would be very helpful to our community to have additional tech support.
Moving on, these next few are ones I've added. And I put this in here just for a point of reference. And given that we're a smaller staff, I thought it was an interesting observation. The Wakanda Library, this is Wakanda, has decompartmentalized some of their programming. So rather than have adult and youth programming, they just have programming, just for consideration. They also have an education coordinator who, I mean, it's incredible the amount of integration they have with the school, plural, until you realize that the school district building is literally adjacent to Wakanda Library. But they go out, their education coordinator is constantly interacting with the school. That's her expressed role. She does story times and current event type things, the variety of programming. So I just thought that was interesting.
Hey, Matt, do you know, do the schools in Wakanda have their own libraries in addition to the public library that's on this in the same area?
I believe the schools do. I don't know definitively, but what's adjacent to it is like the district office. So like that half of the middle school that supposedly is the district office, or a portion of the middle school. So that's where she's, you know, interacting with the various like program coordinators at the school to say, hey, we really need some help in the 5th grade class with geology or whatever it is.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Matt, I just wanted to do a little clarification on the decompartmentalization. I think they still have programming that has dedicated age ranges. What they decompartmentalized was the like the workflows, so that staff this was my understanding at least. Anna, please let me know if I'm misrepresenting this at all. So that staff would be, for example, working on maybe one kid's program for a couple of hours, but then they would do a shift at like the adult reference desk, so that everyone was in all of the departments. So there was less rigidity and less walls within the staffing, and the communication was more open.
Okay.
that was kind of my interpretation of that.
The other thing that she specifically mentioned to us at Wakanda, I think, was cycling which staff member was handling programs, which I know Eliza already does for story times because they're so high energy. You cycle through who's doing story times. And by decompartmentalizing their staff, they essentially went from, you know, having the children's amount of staff to do that with to having children's and adult. It is certainly something Eliza and I are already kind of doing, not meaning to do that route, but we have been working more closely on programming that crosses, you know, from adult to teen and also all ages, as well as Eliza is very kind in letting me help out with kids programs when I want to.
You're very kind for helping out.
We don't have the chance to silo much here in terms of workflows. If you even tried, I'm pretty sure the attempt might just drive you crazy.
Got it.
But
we function better. It has been a boon to us.
Anna and Eliza work together very well.
Great. I'll sunset that one. The last one here was nightly programming at Wakanda. And to the point earlier about needing to hire outside folks, this is less about like broad-based to help me with my tech, but we're going to have a programming event this week on how to use the Google Office suite, and then they bring someone in to walk people through Docs, Drive, Mail, whatever. But it's all done with outside contractors. It's not by staff.
We do pretty good with outside contractors with some of our programming. I know we have to usually keep that within a particular range just for budgetary reasons. Okay, but the tech instructors is not one that we've really delved into much, so that might be one to really take a look at and explore more.
Cool.
I like the idea of doing some outside programmers. I don't think we've had one on Microsoft Office recently, but I know Carol had some contacts for, she had someone at Very Smart People that would do like a cryptocurrency and some stuff like that, and understanding kind of some of the mysteries of the tech world. We had somebody on how to take good photos with a cell phone a couple years ago.
And it was
We should see if
people like that.
Yeah,
I
we should
believe
see
that
if
one
Jim
was-
Gibbon would do it for us.
People would show up for Jim Gibbons, even if it was something he was not comfortable with. But yeah, he will always draw a crowd.
Okay, the automated passport info.
Oh my God, I wish we could have that. Prospect Heights, they have their, I don't remember if it was their reference department or if it was adult services, but they had somewhere between 12 and 15 staff members as part of that department, and all of them were trained passport agents. But they also had an automated, they had a separate line that patrons could use for passport related questions, and I think they had basic information included, like, hey, if you call the passport line, you get this basic information. And Eric, as I'm sure you know, when you work the desk, like, you know, we get a ton of calls about this type of stuff, and we're often on the phone with one person for anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes going over a lot of this stuff. So the idea of having something automated that would hopefully cut a lot of that, I was like, oh my God, I want that so badly. Difficult to do with our setup, but yeah.
So is this like an automated terminal that people would use? So it would be something different than the information that we're making available through the website?
It was a phone line,
There's a phone line,
like
yeah.
a separate extension, and when you called that, it gave like it made you sit through like this information or something, and then you could either be connected to the desk or leave a message or something like that. But it was it was an automated automated information.
That would be nice, because as as you know, Katie, no matter how much information you make available on how many topics, there are always going to be quite a few
Exceptions.
people that want to call you
Yeah.
and talk to you about it
Mm-hmm.
and hear it from you,
Mm-hmm.
or from a person.
Yeah.
So that I very much see the advantage in that.
We do have a significant amount of that information on the webpage for passports.
Yep.
I think it might benefit us to consider, I don't know what the character limit is for the confirmation email for appointments, but if it's high enough that we could input some of that information in the confirmation email, then especially for desk staff who aren't passport agents and are booking an appointment, they could say, okay, we're going to send you an email. You read that email and you will have everything you need for that appointment. So read the email, and that at least could help cut down the initial questions. We will always have people with follow-ups, but that could cover like the, no, we don't take passport photos, which is on the webpage, but people don't always
Yeah.
catch.
Or yeah, please
Yeah.
do have your form filled out ahead of time.
Yes.
On that checklist could be, don't go to Walgreens on 176.
I have become sufficiently jaded in my position that I just generally live with the expectation that about 30% of people will never read any instructions that you give them.
That's a low number.
Mhm.
I would count that as higher, but I might be a little bit more jaded. Anyway.
Well, I'm having a pretty good day. Ask me again later in the week. And that estimate could get as high, depending on the day, as 80%. But no, I think it's always a good idea to put as much information available to folks. Get that in front of them, and just encourage people to get through that as much as possible before they ask us any questions. And then fingers crossed they'll actually do it. They'll actually read it. I feel bad when they don't, because I know that we put a lot of thought and effort to the instructions and guidance that we put out for a variety of things on the website, with using our various websites, the services that are available, non-resident programs, intergovernmental agreement cards, et cetera, et cetera. Anywho, so I think then the last noted.
That was the makerspace we've already talked about. The heated pathway, I know we touched on that earlier, but that may be something to, that was a larger path all the way to the entrance of the library. But I know the project that we can kind of look at to see what we can do with the steps and pathways leading into the library, and it would definitely
pathway to heaven.
Right. It's I spent time in Holland, Michigan, and in Holland, Michigan, if anybody's been there, but the streets and pathways all have heated sidewalks, and there's no ice and snow on there. It sort of makes things very easy for people to walk around.
Maybe we can get it as part of the streetscape improvement.
Yeah,
There we go.
yeah. We could be we could be the guinea pigs for that program.
Well, and environmentally more conscious too. We're not salt
so
everywhere. Yeah.
And if we
Safe
could
on
get
that
the steps leading down to the staff entrance by the parking lot, that would be great. A lot of slippage going on there.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I think most of the vendor info was duplicated in the potential improvements tab. Looking forward, CVI, of course, we currently work with Baker and Taylor as our primary vendor for materials. We do get some processing done beforehand. The big challenge with making the RFID transition for us has always been the upfront cost to tag everything that we already have. The getting it tagged before it gets to us would be blessedly simple by comparison. Envisionware is actually who we use for our print station monitoring already. And we have started that conversation as far as whether we should include that wireless printing module. It didn't, at least in the initial conversations, seem to integrate as seamlessly and do as much as we thought it was going to, unfortunately, but it still looks like may well provide enough additional functionality that'll be worth it. TechSoup is amazing. That's a discounts for government and educational entities for a lot of different things in hardware and software. We have a number of our subscriptions for our software that we got through TechSoup. It is a great and wonderful place. So what does the mobile beacon do? We have that on the other page. What's the
Mobile beacon is for the hotspots.
hotspots? Got it.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's just another. So T-Mobile has the grant process, but it's through their business site, which is hard to get in touch with. And then Mobile Beacon, TechSoup is the other route to take.
Neat. Trackstar and Hierology, I'm going to take a look at. I was interested in possible new HR software. Docusign we need to get at a certain point here. And it's good to know about Communico. That's a name I hadn't come across previously as far as the reservations.
The person who we talked to, or one of the people we talked to at Aspen,
Oh, and for
said that
program registration self-checkout.
the management of Communico was almost an entire full-time job in and of itself. Yeah, he was saying that it's, I can't remember exactly what led them to select Communico. I don't know if it was when they were looking for certain options, that was what was available at the time. But he sounded like he was not completely satisfied. And that it got complicated and was kind of a headache. So
okay, so there was some buyer's regret there, so that's noted.
I have heard from Communico is kind of up there with LibCal as far as number of libraries in the area that use it for programming events. So I often will see in our listservs for programming groups of libraries trying to group solve a Communico issue.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that SpringShare had the app function that Communico offers, because that's kind of the only place it falls short of Communico. And basically Communico would mean rebuilding everything we've just built with SpringShare over the last 2 years. So I am not eager to make that switch.
Yeah.
Well, we have noted its existence as a competing app, and if for whatever reason SpringShare falls flat on its face, then we will know that there are other options. Okay. So our potential items here, and we had kind of set it up as a trying to identify ones that we want to pursue, and how strongly we feel that we want to go after those options. So this, I think, would kind of be the to-do list side of things for what we've seen, and really digging into targeting some possibilities.
Well, one of these we've already done, so we can check that one off.
Which one's that?
Water bottle fill stations.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we've got those.
So, done.
Thank you, friends of the library. Just making sure that's recorded.
And we could also put emergency flip books as in progress, since that was Martha was working on that before she left.
Yeah.
What is
I
an
think-
emergency flip book?
Oh, they're
the
the
case-
emergency manuals are available at the main desks, but they're kind of sizable because they cover a lot of territory. The emergency flip books are basically just a flip book where you can easily page through it and get like a set of very quick steps for what to do for particular emergencies.
So it's a staff resource?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Martha did design them, Bonnie, with the idea that if a patron happened to be involved in an emergency and found the flip book, like it wouldn't instruct them for anything that a patron should not know, basically. And Jill's gonna take a look and see. We can't remember if those are already in their places or if they were like 99% done. I know Martha had laminated them and hole punched them and everything. I just can't remember.
I think they're 99% done.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember the test or the test one that the prototype or whatever. I don't know that we actually created the
Oh,
whole
maybe
thing.
I'm remembering the prototype. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna throw out a possible way to distinguish kind of the pursue question here for some of these items, certainly not all, but I feel like there's gonna be some things that are gonna be short term. Make sure we know where to refer patrons who ask about these items. And longer term, should space allow, it should be on the radar.
Yeah.
And that's how
So-
I would characterize a laser engraver, because again, both the visits I did, it was the #1, and it sounded like for other people too, their visits, it was the #1 crafting machinery that was used.
So I'm going to add columns then for timeline and point person. As far as who would be working on it. Does that sound good, Bonnie? Is that
Sure.
okay?
So
They're large. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
so we need
Yeah.
a space before that can be a priority of any kind.
Okay.
Are they one of the machines that would require a dedicated venting system as well?
If you use them for wood cutting, yes. I used them for paper cutting and had to have a vent system going because it's
Okay.
burning stuff.
So for tonight, because I think we could probably go in some depth on a lot of these, laser engraver included. They are big machines, and I do share the questions about the venting. But I think what we're looking at for tonight is really just focusing in on, is it worth investigating? And then, how high the priority and who should be the person to dig into the info, and then circle back once we've gathered more information. I would love us to have a laser engraver, but it was definitely, at least at Winnetka, the biggest machine that they had.
So does that become then a table in
Yeah.
terms of pursue until, it's tabled until space allows?
Anna, how would you like to have another gigantic glass table down in the Spruce room?
I think we were talking about two different forms of the word table here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would say that with everything else we want to pursue, let's wait on the laser engraver. I think we might want to see how we get, what kind of interaction we get with some of our other maker materials before we start dedicating space.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about doing some kind of storage in the spruce room too as a possibility
Yeah.
for a maker space that with our physical.
I'm waiting my
Space.
turn, Jill. It's farther down the
No,
list.
we're talking about laser cutters.
Okay. Priority.
Say medium, just because
Medium.
there is a place
There's a
to
lot of
direct a
demand.
patron today.
Yeah, good point. We could tell them who else. We've got a laundry list of who else has them in the
Yeah.
interim. Yep.
The timeline on that is probably on the
Yeah.
longer side, since it's
Yep.
going to be more involved to sort out some of the questions there.
Yep.
Anyone particularly interested in being the laser engraver?
Well,
So
if it, I was gonna
it's
say,
a
do we
question of-
want to assign a point person for something that's kind of in the long, like, has a longer timeline?
I would like to.
Okay.
I
Katie,
mean,
how about you?
Martha had significant interest in makerspace and pursuing them, but I don't, I don't want to assign her responsibilities. At a meeting
could-
she's not attending, among other things.
Well, it's long term, so we
Yeah.
could put her in with a
Question mark,
question mark.
asterisk.
Yeah, question mark and asterisk. Double question mark, and there we go.
The Rokus
Okay.
to me seem like a no-brainer,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, those
But-
are my high priority. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's going to spike our digital circulation numbers very quickly. I just, yeah.
I will say, when we look into those, we want to watch the new Netflix policy very carefully because I think that might kill Netflix on Roku's.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be happy to take this one.
Okay, probably call that short timeline.
Yeah.
Okay, and projector, and by projector we mean circulating. So I do
Oh.
think we're overdue to replace our projector here too, aren't we? The one that we use.
Yeah.
Yes, it can't be on for more than an hour. It starts dying.
Is that an LCD projector?
I
you're
have
talking about?
no idea.
It's old.
Like you plug a computer into it and it projects the image of the computer. We're not talking about like a 8mm or
No.
a slide
Oh,
projector. I mean, I'm
no.
dating myself a little bit, but I know some of, some libraries have these items in their library of things for people who have accumulated all types of media throughout their lifetime.
No, we're talking about a digital projector.
Got it.
Sounds expensive to be circulating your projector.
Yeah, I think we might want to examine that. I know I've started looking at replacing our projector, and there's a lot out there these days for people wanting to like show movies off of their phone with a projector. So that might be more of interest as a circulating, like if we get a projector that specifically is meant for like Bluetooth with a phone for a movie night thing.
Mhm.
But
So
Yeah.
Anna, maybe you could look into that since you're looking at the info on new projectors for the library.
sure.
A question, does a projector require, I know you can put them on walls, but do we want to consider a screen as well? Or just?
We've got one.
You have one?
I think he means to circulate, Eric.
Yeah.
Circulate.
Eric,
Well,
we're
we've
not
got a-
circulating that screen.
We've got Biter.
Mm. I think we'll be sued. It will take blood.
Fair enough. So projector and screen. Yeah, I knew that was probably a no-go as soon as I remember what we'd nicknamed it. The projector's probably a low priority right now. Does that sound? Yeah. Call that maybe medium timeline. Okay. Remote printing is underway. So we're already looking at that.
Add another column here because things like the projector, Roku, and Wi-Fi hotspots, I would qualify as like library of things, whereas like the laser engraver and some of the other things would kind of end up being makerspace-y. Do we want them
Do we-
categorized in that way?
Like in-house versus circulating?
Or even just like these projects would end up kind of being together in a collection type way. And therefore, probably ultimately somebody would take responsibility for that collection.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not at this time. That can be a future step.
I
Yes.
mean, I'm happy to take on some of the makerspace stuff as it relates to short term, I should say.
This might be looking to the future as far as who on staff would take over responsibility for developing collection of devices, as well as who might, be the point person for a makerspace. That might be a good staff discussion tomorrow at our weekly meeting. Kind of gauge different staff members' interests and availability for something like that. Just thinking that we've got most of us here, but not everybody, in terms of digging into the discussion on something like that. Liza, Anna, Jillian, Katie, what do you think? And Laurence?
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eric, do you mind if I change remote printing to work in progress then, if it's something we're already undertaking?
Yeah, go for it. And I've been working as a point person on that one. I do think that we are going to get that set up. The only reason we haven't immediately jumped at it, one, because we were close to the end of the fiscal year, and we, usually try to avoid setting up software or any other sort of annual payment at the end rather than the start of a fiscal year. But also, we ended up with creating a lot of our own duplicate functionality without really meaning to during the pandemic. So I think will do a lot for us, particularly automating a lot of the stuff that we have to maintain right now. But moving on, DIY to-go kits from Indian Trails. These were a wide variety of arts and crafts and technology to take home and do at home. These include the Go Pro kit, the Merge Club VRA, AR, Raspberry Pi 3, the video kit, etc., etc.
Where are you envisioning, what are you envisioning this as, an adult services or a youth services thing?
Yes.
I think it would primarily fall under adult services, just because of the responsibility level required for these kind of kits. The materials in them need to come back in good shape, and we don't want an 8-year-old checking out a Raspberry Pi without the parents knowing and then bad things happening. I think our biggest struggle here is going to be, again, space for that collection. So I think I might put that one as a longer timeline. Let us see how some of the shorter term things turn out as far as circulation.
So market is low and long term for right now.
I think so.
I'm going to put you down as the person to eventually look at it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as long as it doesn't happen in May of any year.
So a quick question on that. How is it different from what we offer today with the take-home craft for adults, take-home crafts for kids?
So Bonnie, the take-home craft kits are kind of a disposable thing. Like, we provide all the equipment to make one craft, but we often, or sorry, not the equipment, the materials. We don't provide the equipment, so to speak. Like, sometimes they need a hot glue gun or scissors, whereas the DIY to go kit is, it's something that most people would not have at home. So like
like
could
a pie
be
kit, right? It would be a roller, it'd be weights that you would blind bake, it'd have a recipe book.
Raspberry Pi was a drone.
Oh, but there's kits do that at Prospect Height. They had a pie.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, but there's also like a jewelry making kit where it includes some of the tools and equipment that is expected to be returned. So it's a checkout rather than just a grab and go. There was also like a photography kit that had like a tripod and a camera. I think that might be popular.
So it's almost like tech to go a little bit.
Yes, they I believe that library called them both. I think they had some that were DIY to go and some that were tech to go.
Okay.
I think so. I think I grabbed a list of the different stuff that they had.
I know I have one, yeah.
Yeah, and Aspen had a big inventory as well. They said they even get donated things, like Bill, to your point about the telescope. They got some, like, several $1,000 Celestron telescope that someone gave them. And so they said, we just put it in our inventory and people like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
As long as they don't
Okay.
have it, I guess.
Box. That's what Prospect Heights called it.
Checkout app is going to be another one that we can list as work in progress.
Just so I'm clear on this, Eric, isn't this all dependent on RFID though?
No.
Yeah.
No.
A lot of it is, but not all of it.
Okay.
There are a couple of options that offer self-checkout through barcode scanning only. And in fact, those are usually the cheaper options because they don't have to worry about RFID.
Or redoing your whole collection with RFID.
Yeah.
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 But cheap still
So-
means really expensive.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, we're talking relatively speaking here.
Yeah, that's
But
part of the problem.
Just a thought there, like, I know Baker Hughes offers that, but again, and I'm like fascinated with this free money idea, but like Zebra Technologies is kind of the founder of RFID tags, like the ones that the NFL and the players use in their pads. That's all Zebra Tech. They're right up the street from us. I wouldn't mind going up there with my hat out and saying, hey, we need some chips. But anyway, food for thought. We can put a pin in that one.
Yeah. Worth considering.
Yeah.
Well, teen space.
Pursue, yes. Priority high. Timeline immediate. Or priority, what do we think? Medium?
I think medium, mostly because we're still working on getting the teens back from closure.
I mean, it's all kind of a cat chasing its own tail.
Chicken and egg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something cool. They'll start coming.
Am I putting you down for this, Jarvi?
Yes, please.
Flip books, mission accomplished. Wi-Fi hotspots.
Yes.
That's another work in progress. In shortish, next couple months. And that is Jillian that's working on that. I'm not sure we need to look into the.
I've seen them before, and my take on it was that based on how well our current setup functions, it's a lot of money to not do a whole lot more than we already have. I think the only reason we'd want it is if we really felt that every person at the table needed to be on camera completely.
And we don't.
Yeah. I sometimes have patrons that are like, can I sit back here? Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to be in the camera.
A really cool piece of technology that wouldn't do much for us.
Yep.
Kill it.
All right, so just label that as a new Evance Dibs. I think.
What is that?
That is the meeting room registration.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Should be.
I would say probably not.
Because we've got SpringShare.
Yeah.
And we don't have like 50 meeting rooms either.
No.
We love SpringShare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that ended up on the list before we got set ourselves up with SpringShare to do that. Okay. Scanning.
That's work in progress.
Oh, yes. Is that you working on that, Katie?
Yeah, I mean, I know you said you've been working with, I think CVI to see if we can get something set up on our patron printer. But I've, but I've also, I reached out briefly to TBS, who I should probably follow up with them. But yeah, I've been doing research on that. So.
Aaron,
call that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, medium sounds good.
Medium sounds good. And depending on the portion of it, it's probably higher short, because like some of the big epic machines are probably more than we need, but we have a pressing need to get some sort of better scanning capability in place soon.
And was that discovery or that work in progress a byproduct of this canvas, or was that already a work in progress?
I think yes.
It was a workflow concern that was focused through the visits that we made.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking in terms of the committee reporting back to the board. I'm going to take credit for things that.
The visits happened about at a time not too long after the flatbed scanner that we'd been making available had really well and truly given up any semblance of usefulness to us or the community. So we were in the market for new ideas.
Got it. Great.
Flexible shelving.
I think
think that yes would be good for a long timeline.
Very long.
When we start looking at shelving with the next renovation steps.
Yes. Yep.
So I think that's you.
It is. It is. Scanning with ScannerX.
I think could probably, I'm not familiar with ScannerX specifically, but I think that's probably close enough to the previous scanning thing that it could be folded in.
I think that you are probably right. Here, I'll. Saw a number of really neat. There you go. Okay, RFID tags.
I'm still hesitant on whether this is one that will essentially give us that much for all the effort we're gonna have to put in and the money.
Yeah,
So
because there's self-checkout without RFID.
Yeah, if we, I was going to say, if we at some point went with something like TBS or something like that for an actual self-scan station rather than me scan or a mobile scanning option, then we would have to use, I think in that case, we would have to go to RFID, but I don't think it's imminently required.
I would agree, but I think that it ties into enough other stuff on the list that it's probably worth looking into.
Okay.
You know, I know for a fact that we haven't gotten a quote to do a transition in an age. You know, and that to me alone suggests that it's probably worth taking at least a quick stick to the bushes, you know, see if there's any opportunities that pop out. So
no.
No, I'm going to put that down as a yes.
Okay.
But
low priority.
Low for right now. Yeah.
There's also, and I think you guys use this QR code scanning and the barcode scanning. I don't know, when you know how now if you check into a flight, at least for United, you scan a barcode to check in your luggage. I feel like barcodes and QR codes are not going away.
No, they're not.
So.
Well, and all of the libraries that have RFID still have barcodes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Some are hard to find, but they have them.
Yeah. The library specific tags do double duty so that they've got the number RFID and barcoded.
Mm-hmm.
COVID was the best thing that ever happened to QR codes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was dying before that.
It was, yeah. I just saw something. There's a college football team that now has QR codes on the back of their jerseys in Florida or something like that.
Nice.
Check out a linebacker.
No, it's take you to their bio.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I thought it might take to the merchandise store, but
yeah, right. It's a good idea. NFL. What's OPAC?
The catalog.
Online public access catalog. Basically a terminal that's dedicated to providing access to the catalog, pretty much exclusively. With the rise of phones, there's smartphones, there's not been anywhere for most patrons as much of a need to have them around, but I do like the nifty little tablet packs that they have at Winnetka Northfield.
Yeah, and Prospect Heights had it as well, and it's been on my radar for a little bit. If you want to put me down as the point person for this one, at the very least, it would give us a catalog option on the second floor where we have like nothing unless you have a smartphone. So
that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. Mobile makerspace. Not seen but requested.
Yeah, okay. So this is what I've been vaguely referencing throughout this. Was my big takeaway from all the maker spaces we visited was, this is great, we have no space for you. So what I have been toying with the idea of, and need to figure out exactly what it would cost, would be getting essentially a rolling locking cart on which we could store our Cricut machine and all of its various related supplies, and then look at getting 1 to 2 other makerspace type machines, whether that's like an embroidery sewing machine, could easily be mobile, or I'm sure there's some other options. Our button maker could be part of that. We've already got one, but it's not in public access at this time. And then ideally said rolling cart would have a flat tabletop surface that we could set the item up on for the patron to use. So it would be both storage and maker space, so to speak. My main concern is that, as we saw at other libraries, this really does take a dedicated staff person, especially if you have to train a patron on how to use this machine without breaking it. Because yes, you can break a Cricut. I've done it. I've done it when you shouldn't have been able to, and then had to fix it. So
yes, no to damage to expensive things.
Yeah,
that's
I agree with what you chose for timeline and everything, Eric. I think that sounds good.
Yep. Sounds good.
Yeah.
VCR to digital.
A programming oriented makerspace as opposed to an all-time access makerspace.
I think depending on demand, we could look at offering specific hours where there was an oversight person, but that would require another meet.
Yeah. Makerspaces do have the advantage that they involve usually involve a good whack of technology. And that usually translates to stuff that's grant friendly. So that might be an option we take a look at too. VCR to digital converter.
That was also mine. That was something we saw at, I think, a few different libraries. Aspen specifically had both a physical station and a cord for checkout. I would obviously lean towards us having the cord for checkout, because basically it was, here's a cord, you check this out, you download this software to your computer at home, you plug it into the computer and the VCR player, and then you can transfer, your VHS home videotapes onto a disc, or your grandparents' videos, or whatever,
Well, I like that. I like that idea. That tempts me to put down as a high priority, actually, because it sounds like it should be fairly easy to just make the cord available.
Making the cord available is the one thing I know the person at Aspen mentioned, was that the software was not super intuitive, so it often required staff assistance.
Got it.
And if this is something people are doing at home, that's even harder. So that's why I might get a little longer timeline.
So maybe call it a high priority, but medium or long?
Yeah.
Medium long.
That's me.
Yep. Me scan self-checkout station.
I think we could lump that in with the other self-checkout or mobile self-checkout. Or we could, well, they do also offer an app, although Prospect Heights said that they weren't really advertising that capability yet, but
Yeah, they were still checking it out, and they didn't seem overly had a big timeline for moving it out to everybody else.
but yeah, it is a self-checkout option, so you can put me down for that one.
Okay. Technology aid staff.
Well, it sounds, if I'm not misspeaking, it sounds like we contemplated this in the context of some outside contractors.
If we can track down good outside contractors,
yeah,
that would be the way to go. Having somebody regularly on staff.
I would say that would solve the teaching patrons tech stuff problem. It would not solve the problem of having someone to manage the additional technology we're checking out.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll put myself down to look into that one. Interactive elements. I believe this is you,
That's gonna
Eliza.
be me, yes.
Light bright, light bright.
Light bright, light bright.
Put that down as high, and the timeline is probably long because of the size of some of the hardware. Yes, we need the light bright.
Apparently the Kohler Children's Museum has a great one too.
I was just there. I'm trying to think of where it is. Oh, Kohler,
Yeah,
not Coles, like Kohler, Wisconsin.
like the Kohler Children's Museum.
Yeah.
I've never been, but I was informed by my family.
Wisconsin
Is that the one that's at Navy Pier?
and View.
Navy Pier.
Oh, neither.
Used to be in Glenview at one time.
There's one in Glenview, yeah.
There's smaller interactive elements I can be pursuing in the
Yeah, I'm being facetious.
Okay. Docusign.
Yes.
Yes.
Laurence, would you like to?
Sure, yeah. It was used in Deerfield and Northbrook, I think, at least.
I'll put that down as medium for right now because we don't know much about the software yet, but that would be a really good one to have.
I mean,
That would make some of the document signing and check signing potentially a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, I laugh every time in a meeting we say, when we're saying who's going to be at the library to sign this check or that. DocuSign's just an annual contract. So we, I think it's based on number of users, your two variable users and anticipated amount of documents. So that should be like a short to medium, I would hope, without putting pressure on anyone.
Okay. Good deal. It'll be exciting. Communico, I think we had decided that is redundant with SpringShare right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the next one is also redundant with another mobile checkout.
And actually, I was going to say Biblioteca, I just had a half-hour meeting with one of their reps this afternoon about their app. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Basically it offers similar to what a lot of the other options offer for approximately the same relative cost. So didn't learn anything groundbreaking there, but I did speak to someone this afternoon.
Well, it's library services to libraries is not exactly a massive industry. So there tends to be a lot of copying of competitors. So anyway, freestanding kiosk.
That was kind of more the I think someone mentioned it before up on the second floor.
The tablet catalog.
Oh, the tablet.
Yeah. And then we can remove the self-checkout app after that.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed didn't transfer from a previous tab to this tab was the walk up or drive by locker.
Yes. from Northbrook. I probably should have just written drive up.
It's all good.
Northbrook. Yes.
I would say medium. I think the library's
Yeah.
hours are very broad.
Yeah.
Sure.
Probably a longer term because it's a potentially building related, depending on where we would need to put it.
Put them in front of the black and white bathers.
I am fine
Is
with that.
Still up?
It is.
Yep. And they still have scarves on.
They still have scarves on.
Well, at least they're not ascots.
There's that. Library of Things. I do
Yeah.
like the Library of Things. That's probably part of the.
I think that'll overlap a little bit with the DIY to go kits.
Yeah.
So perhaps we should double list it, like list that in there.
I would qualify the Rokus and the Wi-Fi hotspots under Library of Things as well.
Yeah, that's
We could. I feel when I hear library of things, I'm thinking of something like at Prospect Heights where it's like they have a dedicated shelf space, they have a variety of materials and different things to check out, and it's that even if it's not super extensive, it's still beyond our physical, beyond what we have space for. So
Yeah. And Katie, I would build on that by saying, something like a sewing machine, right? Not, I think 50 years ago, many homes had sewing machines, but now not so much. A Sony Walkman was another thing that Northfield had, because some people still have discs, right? And they just want to listen to an older disc or whatever. A VCR. I know a lot of people who have VCR tapes and no VCR. So I think that, the technology thing, you can think forward thinking, shared technology that's newer, but there's also, the community sometimes needs older technology that we collectively have mostly gotten rid of, but occasionally you need.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We do still get requests for electric typewriters.
DVD players.
Yeah.
We don't have DVD players.
You get requests for electric typewriters?
Yes.
Typewriter, yeah.
That was, yep, not as we used to get it a lot, and not a ton more frequently at Waukegan, but it was a question I had to answer probably 7 or 8 times at least. No, we don't have any electric typewriters. No, I have no idea where you might find one.
Okay.
Tom Hanks has some typewriters.
So in terms of thinking about the Library of Things, I think probably what we're leaning towards really needing to do is just kind of discuss organizationally the framework there as far as how we're going to group things, and then how those groupings will be assigned in terms of collection responsibilities and maintenance with staff. So I think with everything that we're looking at in terms of thinking in terms of a library of things and makerspace collections and things like that, we're looking at that being a yes, that we're getting collections of stuff that need to be grouped, I think is where we're trending. I'll call that high, medium, and since I'll be the one that'll end up leading the discussion on it, I'll put myself down for it. Since
Yeah, and
it's going to end up being an
let's just
organization.
include in there too, like Bonnie said, like older technology, because I think that's, that's a great point. Who has the
Well, what we kind of need, I mean, we've got some great items on here that are, items that really flash for us, but we get someone assigned as responsible for the collection, and then it can be somebody that will be the point person to get after exploring the options as far as what that collection is going to be developed like. There may even be a new budget line, and won't that be exciting? Okay. Heated sidewalks, yes. Probably not a high priority at the moment, probably long term, but yes, please.
Yeah.
No, I don't think SRO is great, and he's out more than I would expect to shovel for us in the winter. But if the snow's really coming down, then we got to get out there, and I don't think anyone on staff is going to miss doing that. Like, gosh, I miss the days when I got to go outside and freeze my hands. Okay. Any other items besides the outside boxes, pickup boxes that we need to drop in? Yes, Bill.
We put that automated passport info on here, and I'll take that. Because if that's going to save the staff a lot of headaches and time, I'd be interested in exploring that either with Granite or someone else to figure out how we hit 6 for passport info or templated emails that include all the information that they couldn't read on the site already.
We, back in our first passport procedure, which was a hot mess in many ways, we did have an email template that we would use, but that was we just had that template saved in Outlook.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Other items. Okay.
I would say the other thing it was captured on an earlier tab, but I don't know if it was accurately kind of transferred to this tab, would be, do we have something for when a patron calls and says, I really need to use an embroidery machine? Does the Lake Bluff Library have one? The answer is no. Here's where you go. I really need to transfer my 35 millimeter slides or my cassette tapes or something. Oh,
So
we don't have
kind
that,
of
but here's where you go.
Kind of a quick reference directory for staff so that we can.
Yeah, I
direct
need a
people
large
accordingly.
format printer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where do I go? So I'll use a a future looking, or just that sort of.
Katie, that sounds like it's
there's
probably
gonna be
your
needs that come
wheelhouse.
up that we just, with space limitations and money limitations, we're not going to be able to meet, but we can point them in the right direction.
I'm just gonna toss tech tutorials onto that list since it's come up, because I had somebody asking about where they could learn Excel at the library recently, and I was like,
Waukegan will do, I know they did tech classes when I was there, and their programming module has changed over the last few years, but I just saw on Facebook that they've got tech hours and they offer classes. But
Katie, when you are looking at that, just pay attention, because I know Cook Memorial offers a ton of tech classes, but they are exclusive to Cook Memorial patrons.
yeah, I was gonna
Drives
say,
me crazy.
I'm pretty sure that Waukegans are open to everyone because of just the general population. But yeah, I figured with a lot of this stuff, you'd need to double check if they were a card holder or a resident or whatever.
I just know the tech programs, they often have to do that because there's such limited space, since it's like
exactly. Yeah.
So looking towards the end of the meeting tonight, I think what I would suggest as a follow-up to this, with this sort of realm of multiple projects to be working on, I think maybe monthly meeting, if we can swing it, might be advantageous. Give everybody a chance to bounce back together again and discuss once a month any hiccups that we've encountered, as well as a report on progress. In particular, I think important because there's definitely a lot on here that meshes in terms of different projects that fit together well. and will dovetail well together.
Hey, Eric, I'm sorry. I just, one other thing, the paper shredding thing. That's like a service. Yeah.
Shred, is that like a shredding day?
Shred
Yes.
event. Yeah.
Shred
Yes,
event.
Kate, there was so many references to the Waukegan Public Library. Decided to look at their Facebook page, and they had an
Yeah.
event 4 days ago.
That was actually exactly what prompted me to mention that recently on our Slack channel. And I will also say, Bonnie, if you're not aware, Waukegan's the only other library I've worked at, so that is the only other library that I have extensive reference to. So you'll get a lot of mentions of that.
No
Okay.
worries.
One
Thank you.
observation, the Lake Bluff Bank, or Lake Forest Bank, the Lake Bluff branch does have a shred event. I think it was just last week, actually. They put a truck out in the
Yes.
Metro parking lot, and
Yes, Matt, that was part 2 of that discussion between me and Katie was, well, the bank does like 3 of these days in April, so maybe we should do it in September.
yeah, yep, compliment that, yep.
Yeah.
Move it later because they're just down the street. Eric, as far as the monthly meetings, I would like to request that the first one be in June for all of our sanity.
Yeah.
It is April 26th, so it's only a little more than a month away if we go to June.
Memorial Day
That's fine.
notwithstanding, yeah.
Sounds fine. All right. So I will take a look at getting that set up. I anticipate that the monthly check-in meetings will be shorter working meetings than the one tonight, where we're I think really getting ourselves organized and processing a lot of data that we've gathered. But this has been good. There's a lot of exciting stuff on here.
Listen, I'm thrilled. I just want to express my gratitude to everyone for the diligence and the patience and the effort put into this. It's turned out better than I would have expected. So I really very grateful to the members of the board, the committee, and certainly the staff for investing their time in this as well.
I really like going on library visits.
Me too.
Yeah, I enjoyed them too. That was fascinating.
Field trip.
Okay.
There'll be more.
Right, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Right.
Before you guys
Yeah,
need a
motion
motion to adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
All in
And
favor?
Zaute first. Hayes,
Right, yeah.
Hayes second with an E.
Yep.
Right,
at
exactly, yeah.
8:40.
Yep. 8:40
Thank you,
on the
Bonnie.
nose.
All
All
right.
right, everybody.
Good night,
All right,
everyone.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone. Night.